Welcome back to Spaghetti Clips. Today we're going to explain an adventure, fiction, fantasy movie called Full Metal Alchemist. Sit back and relax. The film opens in the grassy plains of Resemble with the young Elric brothers, Alphonse and Edward, rushing towards their mother to inform her of their successful use in alchemy. Their mother suddenly loses consciousness and soon after dies. At the funeral, the brothers decide that they would like to see their mother one last time and vow to use alchemy to do it. We then see a montage of the boys learning the secret of human transmutation, and before long they begin their preparations to bring their mother back to life. Things go awry, however, when an unusual chemical reaction takes place, causing a whirlwind-like force which tears the house apart and separates the brothers from each other. The next scene takes place a few years later, which we see an older Edward chasing a strange priest through the streets of Riol. The priest uses his mysterious red ring to transmute buildings into pillars, as well as create beast-like creatures in hopes of killing Edward. Just as the beast-like creatures are about to overpower Ed, an armored Alphonse shows up and destroys the creatures. The army soon shows up, but not before Priest Cornello makes his escape. Meanwhile, Al uses alchemy to restore the town and fix the townspeople's belongings. The townspeople are stunned by this magic, but Al corrects them. Al then begins to explain to the townspeople, as well as the audience, the rules behind alchemy. East City's Colonel Mustang in tow with Lieutenant Riza Hawkeye then show up and explain to Ed and Al that the mysterious red ring that Cornello had, the Philosopher's Stone, was a fake and uses his fire alchemy to destroy the stone. Much to the dismay of Ed, who had become a state-qualified alchemist some years prior in hopes of finding a way to bring his mother back to life. Winry also shows up. It is explained through exposition that Winry is a childhood friend of the Elric brothers, and that she created metal prosthetics for Ed's right arm and left leg, which is why he is referred to as the Full Metal Alchemist. Winry berates Ed for destroying his right arm during the battle, but before things get heated, the Elric brothers are taken to East City's army command. Cornello manages to escape capture, but is confronted by three mysterious beings: lust, gluttony, and envy. Cornello berates them for providing him with a fake Philosopher's Stone, and they kill him. Envy then displays his special ability by transforming himself into the now deceased Priest Cornello. Gluttony then eats the real Priest Cornello's corpse. At East City, we are introduced to Lieutenant Colonel Hughes, who also happens to be Mustang's closest friend, and General Halcrow. They all exchange information about the Philosopher's Stone. General Halcrow proposes that the famous synthetic alchemist, Sho Tucker, may be of use in the search for the Philosopher's Stone. That night, Ed, Al and Winry have dinner at the Hughes residence. During this scene, it is made clear to the audience that Hughes' wife is pregnant. Later, Ed goes to bed but soon wakes up to find himself in a world of pure light, decorated only by a large door that he finds himself standing in front of. A shadowy figure appears behind him and promises to show him the truth, at which point the door opens, releasing black tentacles that pull in Ed. We then see a flashback of Al's memory, right after using forbidden alchemy to conjure his mother back to life. The figure, although obscured, clearly isn't human, and Ed is horrified by the monster that he has created. As a result of using forbidden alchemy, Ed loses his left leg, while Al loses his entire body. Determined to bring his brother back, Ed sacrifices his right arm and manages to attach Al's soul to a nearby piece of armor. Al then wakes up from this dream to find Ed standing by his bed. It becomes apparent that Al has this dream frequently. Al is determined to use the Philosopher's Stone to bring Al's body back, and decides to pay a visit to Sho Tucker. On the way to Tucker residence, Mustang explains to the Elric brothers that Sho Tucker became famous 2 years ago for creating a chimera capable of human speech. The chimera, however, died shortly after. Once they arrive, the brothers are greeted by Tucker, his daughter, Nina, and his dog. The house is littered with research papers as he explains that if he doesn't make a breakthrough in his research soon, he will lose his state alchemy license. Tucker also states that his wife left some years ago. The brothers and Winry play with Tucker's daughter and the dog, during which Tucker's daughter refers to Ed as Big Brother. Soon after, Ed and Winry go in search of the Philosopher's Stone expert Dr. Marco, while Al stays at the Tucker residence, as Tucker is interested in researching Al's armor body. Ed and Winry eventually find Marco's residence, although he is currently going under the alias Marlowe, and are confronted with a very hostile Dr. Marco, who refuses to talk to them about the stone, while threatening them with a gun. Marco then sees a shady figure lingering through the window and shoots at it. The figure reveals itself to be the man-made humanoid, Lust, a homunculus. Lust then attacks Marco, using her sharpened elongated nails and gravely wounds him. Lust also manages to subdue Ed and Winry, but stops short of killing them, as Ed is needed for their plan. Before he dies, Marco informs the two that they can find out more information about the Philosopher's Stone at the 5th Research Laboratory, but also warns them that the stone is evil and that they will not like what they find. Ed leaves Winry behind while he goes back to East City to search for more clues. Back at the Tucker residence, Tucker is conducting experiments on Al's body and is astonished by the fact that Ed was able to attach a soul to a piece of armor. Tucker wonders if this type of alchemy even exists, after which Al begins to doubt whether or not his memories are his own, or were just manufactured. Ed makes it back to the Tucker residence and stumbles upon Tucker, who has been successful in his most recent experiment, the creation of another chimera, capable of speech. The chimera says, "Let's play, Big Brother," and Ed soon realizes that this chimera is a transmutation of Nina and the dog. Ed begins to beat Tucker, but Al wakes up and intervenes before Ed can deliver the finishing blow. Tucker is later apprehended by the East City soldiers while Ed laments at the fact that he is just human and unable to stop such inhumane acts. Some time later, Ed, Hughes and 2nd Lieutenant Maria Ross begin their research on the 5th Research Laboratory. They soon realize that the research lab's existence is a military secret and have trouble finding the location on a map. With some further investigation, they eventually discover the location of the lab and Ed, Al and Winry make their way towards the lab. Once the trio arrive at the lab, they find it to be empty and despair at the fact that they have once again reached a dead end. Al then confronts Ed about whether or not his memories are in fact just a fabrication. Ed denies the allegations, but the two soon come to blows. Winry stops the both of them from killing each other and reminds them of the struggles they have endured thus far. Lieutenant Reza, Hawkeye and crew soon show up and place both Ed and Al under house arrest for reasons unknown. Once under house arrest, however, they both manage to escape. Meanwhile, Hughes, while looking at a map of Amestris, realizes that all the recent wars that have occurred form a transmutation circle and comes to a stunning realization. At that moment, Lust enters the room and begins to attack Hughes. Hughes manages to escape and find a local telephone booth, proceeding to inform Mustang of his discovery. Before he can speak to Mustang, however, Envy disguised as Mustang appears behind Hughes and shoots him, leaving him for dead. Word of Hughes' death soon spreads, and a warrant is placed on the capture of his killer, Mustang. Mustang sneaks into an internment camp and makes his way into the tunnels. There, he is stopped by Hawkeye, Maria Ross and other soldiers. The soldiers make an attempt at apprehending Mustang, but Mustang swiftly uses his flame alchemy to burn Maria Ross to a crisp. Ironically, the soldiers just stand there and watch this happen. Before long, Maria's burnt crisp of a corpse reanimates itself and is revealed to be a disguised Envy. Envy unfortunately places Maria's mole on the wrong side of her face, which is how Mustang deduced that Maria to be a fake. Gluttony and Lust show up moments later and a fight soon breaks out, leaving Mustang gravely wounded by Lust. Ed manages to make his way to the underground secret experiment facility that was used for creating the Philosopher's Stone. Here he finds AA tied up and gagged Winry as well as Show Tucker, who has managed to escape his confinement. Tucker then explains to Ed that the Philosopher's Stone requires live human beings as a sacrifice to increase the potency of the stone. Essentially, prisoners at this facility were sacrificed by Dr. Marco in the creation of the stone. Lust once again appears unexpectedly and kills Tucker for overstepping his bounds. General Halcrow then reveals himself to be the one controlling Lust, Envy, and Gluttony. General Halcrow has used large quantities of the Philosopher's Stone to create an immense army of zombie-like creatures and hopes to use said army in the wars that are sure to come. Before Lust can stop him, Halcrow activates the army, which plunge down from the ceiling and devour him swiftly. Mustang and Hawkeye rendezvous with Al and Ed, and they devise a plan to stop the zombie homunculus. Mustang uses his flame alchemy to dispatch the creatures inside the lab, while Hawkeye and other soldiers surround the outer perimeter and stop the creatures from entering into the outside world. Ed soon manages to track down Envy and Lust, with Mustang soon joining him, and they all engage in battle. Despite their efforts, however, Envy and Lust regenerate whenever they are injured. Mustang, however, realizes that their regeneration time takes longer and longer every time. Him and Ed come to the conclusion that the Philosopher's Stone contained within the homunculus must be withering. Mustang then uses the last of his strength to incinerate both Envy and Lust. Envy's body is charred, while Lust's corpse disintegrates. Ed uses Lust's Philosopher's Stone to once again visit the Gate of Truth and retrieve Al's body. The shadowy figure offers Al's lanky and frail body in exchange for the Philosopher's Stone, but Ed decides that he cannot use the lives of other human beings to bring his brother back, and that he will find another way. Back in the real world, Al, Winry and Hawkeye gather with Ed and Mustang, and they all look on into a distant sunrise. Ed and Al plan to go on another adventure. In a closing credit sequence, a lizard-like creature expels itself from Envy's charred body and runs off into the distance. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more movies like this.